This might be the last big month of reading I have probably until December. This was another really big month of reading for me. Happy Friday, my friends! I am so very excited that you are here. Today, I am talking about all the manga that I read last month, and it was a great month of reading. I know I didn't have AC for pretty much all of July, and I'm surprised I read as much as I did, because really the only times I could read was at nighttime, and that was only until the sun went down because I refused to leave my, nice cool spot by my window where the wind was coming in or by a fan. So I was really shocked, yeah, by how much I read this month. But it was a great month of reading, and we will go ahead and just dive in because I'm very excited to talk about all of these. Though the first book, and it's an actual book, well, manga is a book, but this is a novel, and anyway, let me just keep talking about it. But this is different than what I typically read. It's not a manga, and it is called Ganbatte, The Ties That Bind Us. This is an anime-inspired anthology. A very good friend of mine was the organizer of this, and I have been slowly making my way through the anthology, and I've really have enjoyed it. It sort of reminds me a little bit of a light novel, I guess you would say, because it does have illustrations, and I absolutely love this story. It's called Mired in Despair by Andy L. Gregory. I'm not sure if that's how you say her name, but I absolutely loved it. The story was very good. I definitely wanted more. I enjoyed the first story, which was by Noelle Nichols, A Winter Sky. I love the art for this one as well. My goal is to try and read a story a day because they're really short. I mean, they're only, let's see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So they're about 12 to 15 pages long, it seems to be, which isn't that bad at all. I originally started reading on my Kindle, but then actually that story, Mired in Despair, is that the name of it that I said it was? Yes. It sort of spooked me at night because it had things with shadows and stuff, even though I really enjoyed the story. But after that, I was like, I'm gonna wait to read this during the day. And one of the series I'll be talking about, I actually had to hurry up and read because somebody put a hold on a volume, and so I had to quickly finish the series so I could go return it. Anyway, so my goal this month is to finish reading this because I really much, let me rephrase that. I really enjoyed this a lot. I have been finding that if I read novels, I need some kind of anime link to usually read it. I feel like there's a few exceptions. My friend Becky Gaines is releasing her novel, The Soul Crier, and it was so good. I read it very early. I was a beta reader for that story and absolutely loved it. It has one of my all-time favorite villains in that story. He's so horrible, but he's so great. Highly recommend. Cannot wait for that to release. But anyway, so I have been finding though that this year I've only read one other novel outside of this one, and my friend Ellen compared it to Demon Slayer, and I was completely sold. It was so very good. It's definitely like Demon Slayer, but it's mixed in, I don't know, with a little bit of romance, but they're not siblings, and just some other great awesome stuff. I'm not even sure how to talk about that because she's currently pitching it to publishers, so I'm like, I don't know what else to say, but it was so very good, and I'm very excited for that to one day release. I will definitely be buying that and recommending it. So if you enjoy reading short stories, this is one I would definitely highly recommend, especially if you love anime inspired stories, because I believe on the Otaku Creators, website, they have been doing a series of interviews with all of the authors or all the contributors talking about, I think, like the anime that inspired their stories. I know for one of them, the next one that I'm going to be reading, which is Slum Song, and look at the illustration for it. It is so awesome. I know that this one is low-key inspired by Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen in that story. And so I just wanted to talk about this one because, oh my goodness, many thanks to Noelle for sending me a physical copy. I'm so very excited to own this because I'd already been looking forward to getting it in paperback, and it's just very awesome to have this in my hands. And again, I highly recommend it. I will be talking about it again next month after I officially finish reading all the short stories. Now, friends, we can officially talk about the manga that I read this month. I only read one digital manga, which was pretty different from what I read last month since I read all of Mars digitally, and I did talk very briefly about that in my reading wrap-up last month, and I do still have a video review coming. It's just later down the pipeline, I guess you could say. But I read one digital manga, and it was an early advanced reader's copy, and that was formerly The Fallen Daughter of the Duke, I believe is the name of that title. And I really, really enjoyed it. I actually pre-ordered this. Well, I pre-ordered it, then I read the digital copy, and I still have my volume 1 on pre-order. I do plan to collect the series as long as it continues to go well. I struggled in the beginning with that manga because there was some hardcore info dumping. Like, I was very overwhelmed with all the information that was thrown at me, and I was very skeptical if I was going to enjoy it. But I found as the manga went on, I really, really enjoyed it. In fact, even with the overwhelming amount of information at the beginning, I still gave that volume 5 stars. I felt it had some very unique elements for the villainous isekai that I just absolutely loved. I mean, I'm not going to say specifically what it is because I do feel like it is a spoiler, and it's one thing that I would not want anybody to spoil that for me, like, whatsoever. So, but I will say, if you like Snow White with the red hair mixed in with an isekai, I definitely feel like you would probably enjoy that one. Like I said, you have to overcome the info dumping at the beginning because it was a light novel turned into a manga. So keep that in mind, but I really felt like that just had so many great unique elements, and it's the first villainous isekai that I've actually read that actually has a magic system. We don't see much of that, but I'm very, very curious. I do feel probably compared to the light novel, it is faster paced, and I'm hoping that some of the world that we've seen, which I've absolutely loved, we will see more of it again, like at a slower pace in future volumes. So that is a manga I would definitely recommend. Again, gotta deal with that info dumping, but if you can get past that, the characters are great. We have a female knight, which I've only seen in Snow White with the red hair, so I'm very excited to see another female knight in another, I believe it's a shoujo fantasy series, so I'm very, very excited. For physical manga, I'm really excited because I read two big series this month. Well, this one's not big, but it's a very iconic series, and I actually went and spammed a friend about how much I enjoyed this, and that is A Silent Voice. I have officially read this iconic series. I see why it is so loved, and I honestly think that getting the hardback cover deluxe edition, however you want to say that, is so rightfully deserved because this was such a powerful series. I'm very excited for my review coming out next week. This was one that if I did not know that, like, had not been told that it's a very powerful redemption story, I would have not finished it because this first volume was so hard. Shoya is like a horrible bully, and I really disliked his character, and I was just amazed by, like, how, for me personally, how my feelings and my thoughts towards Shoya change as the series goes on, and how Shoya grows. Honestly, he has to have the most powerful redemption arc I've ever seen in fiction, period. I did watch the movie. After I read it, I watched the movie with my husband, and the movie was very good. However, even with that said, the manga is 10 times better in my opinion because one of my favorite parts about the manga is that you see so much of Shoya's internal dialogue, and I was very bummed that that was not captured nearly the same way in the movie. That's not like to play down the movie or anything, but it genuinely was one of my favorite parts, and I just it was so hard reading his internal dialogue at times because he has so much hate and loathing for himself, and that was a lot harder for me to not relate to, but just seeing his struggle was very hard to see on page and was something I was not nearly prepared for enough. So this is a series I would definitely recommend. I don't know if I'm going to get the whole series. As you can see, I only have volumes 1 and 7 that I personally own, but it is so good. It is so good. This is like one that maybe you don't reread often, but it's a story that will stick with you and just has a very lasting impact. The next thing that I read was A Sign of Affection, Volume 5, and this was so very good. It was a little bit on the shorter end. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's just me. I honestly feel like I say that every single time with a volume, and I think it's just because I read these so incredibly fast. This volume was no disappointment. I feel it was a little bit slower going, not in a bad way, and I think it's just because our characters are dealing more with adult-like things. Like Yuki gets a job in this volume, and I just found that very fascinating, and I loved how it affected their relationship and just how they're growing. And there were some just amazing stuff, guys. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, The Sign of Affection, it's always wonderful. Every time a new volume comes in, it's just absolutely amazing. The art is beautiful. I love getting these volumes, and just I love the volume. I love our couple, and I do feel like the beginning of this, the very opening chapter, was surprising, and I'm excited to see what other people think. I know that one friend that read it, she voiced the very similar opinions that I did, and I think people's opinions, well, if they did not like, how do you say his name? Oshi? That if you did not like him in the beginning, I feel like that opening chapter really puts him in a different light. And so I was very excited for that, even though I was like, why are we reading about him? So it was very good. Still, as always, I highly recommend this series. Just it's so wonderful, and the cover is so adorable, so pretty, and I really love just this series. That's all I can say. Oh my goodness, another volume that I was very, very excited to read, and that is why Raeleena, I think I'm saying that right, ended up at the Duke's mansion. I just did a video review of this, I believe, last week. Here's the link to it if you'd like to check it out. Oh my goodness, this was so very good. It was a lot funnier than I expected. The art is gorgeous. I mean, this is up there with The Sign of Affection in the sense of anytime a new volume comes out, I must binge read it ASAP. Like, I cannot wait. As soon as it's coming in the mail, I have to sit down and read it because it was so much fun. I love the political world. I'm not usually a huge fan of politics. Like, I don't mind them, but usually when it's heavy politic based, it's not typically my cup of tea. But this was very well done, and I think I read this right after formerly The Fallen Daughter of the Duke, and so I was a little bit nervous that the word building would be very info dumpy, I guess you would say, like just all of that mixed in, and it'd be sort of faster paced. No, this was so well done. You get subtle bits of information, and it sort of lets you like sit on it and think about like, what does this mean? How is it going to affect this story? And I really, really appreciated that, and just how smooth everything was. And really, honestly, our couple here, they are so fantastic. Like, the chemistry jumps off page. This is a manual I would strongly recommend. It does have a little bit of the heftier price tag, but the quality and the story, the art, make it all 10 times worth it. It is so very good. Very much looking forward to the anime releasing. I think it is going to be a great time to see them on screen. I know it was a great time just reading their story, like just flipping through it. I'm like, I need to reread it again because that is how much I enjoyed this story. I mean, it was funnier than I expected. The art was more gorgeous than I even expected. And just the characters are, I don't know, I was gonna say cooler than I expected, but I don't know. Just everything about this volume really exceeded my expectations. And just, I cannot wait for volume 2. I'm so eager to get it in my hands. It cannot come out soon enough. Again, please check out my review if you want more thoughts on this because I absolutely loved it and just strongly recommend it. The biggest and longest read of this month that I know a lot of people are very excited for me to read was Full Metal Alchemist. I only have the omnibus volumes 1 through 3. I had to return the rest to my library. It was so good. It was so good. These characters, honestly, I would say not the whole cast of characters, though I love the whole cast of characters. Like, this is one of the first times that I have experienced like love for the villains, love for the main characters, love for the side characters, like just love for everybody. Obviously, there was a few characters I did not like whatsoever, but as a whole, the characters in this manga are just super amazing. Like, there's not enough words to just say, to share about them, of how great they are. The story as a whole was fantastic. The arcs that these young boys, or young men I should say, have, and just everything. Like, this also well exceeded my expectations. I did not expect to become such a huge fan for this series. I love just Scar's character. I love his character so much. We need more merch of him. Did not expect to just love everybody. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, the story is great, but the characters were just awesome. I feel like quite a few of them have become in my top 5 favorite characters ever. Like, they're up there with Haikyuu and One Piece, which is something I never would have expected, especially since I still have not seen the anime. Well, I saw a few episodes of it, but, and even saying that, I enjoyed this series so much that I'm like, I'm okay with reading the manga, which is very surprising for me, but I felt so full, so satisfied from this story that I'm like, I'm okay. I am okay. That's not to say that I actually do hope to see the anime Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood at some point, like finish watching it. But for now, I'm so content with this story. I really enjoyed it. I did not expect to go like on this hunt trying to find some of the volumes to see if I could start collecting the series, because it was so fantastic. I understand the hype for this series. I definitely think it's real, and I'm just like, wow, why did it take me so long to check out this series? It is just absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait for that video review to come. Oh, hopefully it captures all of my thoughts. I feel like there was so much I wanted to say, and there's still like different parts or different things that I feel like I didn't fully mention, like Hughes. I was like, did I even talk about Hughes? And I was like, I don't know, that's all I can say. I mean, if you know, you know, but I was a little bit bummed that I didn't actually share any of my thoughts, as much as I was definitely keeping that video spoiler free, but Hughes, he's so amazing. So this is a great and fantastic series. I would definitely recommend, though it does have some creepy parts, which totally caught me off guard, because horror is definitely like not one of the genres that I can handle very well. And I did joke with my husband that if I wanted some creepiness or some horror, I will go read Junji Ito. So I don't think it's quite on that level, but for me, it was a little bit harder for me to handle those creepy elements when they did come up. But I love the characters, so very excited to just talk about them on this channel, because I'm sure they're going to be coming up a lot more often. During the time that I was reading Full Metal Alchemist, I picked up this and I read it the same day that released, and that is Hi, I'm a Witch and My Crush Wants Me to Make a Love Potion. This was hands down inspired by the shoujo josei community on Twitter. I typically don't read stuff with witches or anything like that, but I was like totally sold from the blurb, and the cover is absolutely gorgeous, and this was a very good first volume. I had a rough day the day I read this, and so I felt originally that I was disappointed by the end. That's not to say it was a bad story. It definitely wasn't. It was very good. It just, I wanted a lot more romance, and you don't fully get that romance. Like, recently somebody did a review and they said it's very slow burn, and I definitely think that is very true. Like, this is one that I sort of wish I would have waited, because I want volume 2 so desperately, and it reminded me of why usually I wait to read manga. And like, what I mean is, like, I will wait to have a few volumes on hand, because this is one that you need volume 2 when you start. And I do want to do a shout out to May, because she had asked me if I liked it, and I did say, and then we were talking, and I actually went back and reread it. And after I reread it, I enjoyed it so much more, because I think I came in expecting this to be a very heavy romantic volume, and it's not a heavy romantic volume. You find out some really great backstory, and then you really learn more about our main character, and my heart just softened so much more towards her, and I love our hero. Like, their interactions, like, that was the one thing that I was so desperate for and so much wanted more of. So this is a very great volume. Keep in mind that the romance is very slow burn, though, because I do think knowing that, if I would have known that ahead of time, would have been, I don't know, I think I would have enjoyed it much more the first time that I read it. But like I said, shout out to May, because when I went back and reread it, I mean, like, even looking at it now, you know, it makes me happy, it makes me smile, and I will say the lore in this, like when it involves our main character as a witch, was very, very unique. I mean, like I said, I don't really typically read stuff with witches, but I thought it very unique, and I'm very curious to see how that's going to play a role later on in the story, or yeah, in the story in the series. So I cannot wait for volume 2. I'm sad that I have not seen a pre-order link up for volume 2 just yet, because this is one that I definitely plan to keep reading. I know it's just going to get even better, and it's going to be a very fun and sweet story. The art is amazing. I love this character. I absolutely love this character so much. He is so fantastic. But the art is great. The pacing was great, and has some very good humor. And again, that romance is going to unfold, and it's going to be the sweetest thing. I cannot wait. For my last two, they were 2 volume 1s, and I read them this past Sunday, because I was trying to read 40 volumes, and I was not quite successful because I got tired. But I read volume 1 of Cat Plus Gamer, and it was so cute. This manga was part of Marg Reads Manga's Treat Yourself book club, or manga club, I should say. And I missed reading or attending that live stream, and I'll leave a link here if you want to check it out, because my library didn't get this volume in time. But this was very cute. I had went shopping the day prior, like with my kiddos or my family for school, back to school shopping, and I was totally wiped out when I came back. And so I was like, you know what? We're just going to start this on a whim, and this is the perfect way to, or one of the perfect manga I feel, to unwind, just chill. There's not really any high stakes. Riko is the woman here, is absolutely hilarious. I love how she's using her gaming skills and her gaming knowledge to try and raise a pet for the very first time. It was very cute, and while she seems very airheaded, I think just maybe a little bit, I don't know. I think she is so sweet though, and her interactions with her cat and her expressions are just so very funny. Like I really enjoyed myself reading this, and I just think she's so great. I mean, I know that doesn't say anything because I keep laughing, but I don't know, I found that I really, really enjoyed myself reading this. Like, this is very much a chill, lighthearted story, and like I said, just a great way, or a great manga to read and unwind when you're just like, I don't need too much overwhelming my brain. If you need some slice of life with a little bit of humor and a super cute cat, a very super cute cat. Like, my favorite parts of this manga were actually the bonus chapters because they were always from the cat's perspective, and it was so great. It was so great. So this is what I would definitely recommend. I'm very much hoping that my library will get volume 2. I am interested in seeing what happens next, and this is actually a manga that I plan to write a like formal review for the Clean Fiction magazine. I thought it was Clean Indie Fiction magazine, but it's Clean Fiction magazine that I write for, because this is one that I'm like, if people need a chill manga, this is a chill manga, though it might make you want a cat. And even if you're like, well, Laura, I hate cats, I still feel like this is a really great one to read for cat lovers and non-cat lovers, because I have cat allergies, so I'm not a huge fan of cats, even though I do really like cats though. So, but this was great, and it may make you want a cat. It's very, very fun, very enjoyable, highly recommend. And for my last read, I don't know how you say this, is it Freyrin? Beyond Journey's End, though, it is a new Shonen Jump release. This was the latest manga for Marguerite's Manga Club for the Trio Shelf, and I was there for that live stream, but anyway, that's a long story. So, but I wasn't able to make it, and I just finished reading it, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was, I will be honest, it was a little bit sadder than I expected. It was very much emotional in the beginning, and I will say that this is the most unique Shonen Jump manga I have read, because I feel like typically when we think of shonen manga, we think of action right from the get-go, or at least in that first chapter, not your heart sort of getting pulled out and you're like, I'm very teary-eyed right now. And that's what happened with me, and this is a very chill slice of life fantasy manga, I feel. I really enjoyed the characters, and honestly, I wish we could have seen more of them, because their interactions together were so very fun, I guess you would say. And so, but that's part of the story, and our main girl here, however you say her name, going back and going on these adventures, or not going back, but going on these ventures to relive memories of the past with her comrades, because she's an elf mage and she's the only one that's like not aging quickly or as quickly as humans. And so she sees some of the passing of these characters, and it was so hard. I mean, it's not graphic or anything, and you don't see anybody actually die or anything like that, but it was seeing her memories and the past, and just, well, her memories that she had with them was a lot more moving than I expected. And I did like the characters that she meets. She's an interesting main character to follow, because sometimes it is really hard to see what is she feeling or what is she thinking. Oh, this is a good one. I really love this panel. I love the panels when she smiles, because she does not smile very often. I don't think that means that she is unhappy per se, but it's just interesting. I will just say that. It was just interesting. So I liked it though. I liked it. I'm not sure if this is one that I would own, but I do plan to continue the series. This will probably be like a casual pickup for me, because I'm like, I don't know if I want to be sad for the next volume. So I do have volume 2, but this is another one I was thinking about reviewing for the Clean Fiction magazine, because I think that this would be very enjoyable for a lot of people, especially if you're like, well, I like shonen manga, but I don't want all this hardcore action. Like, this is a really, really great one to pick up, especially if you love fantasy. All the characters are, just like I said, very awesome, and it's just a very unique and different story that I've seen in shonen and manga. So I'm very curious. I'm very curious, and it has a lot of has a lot of love, and it does seem like the action will probably pick up based off of the final page and the ending. And like I said, I'm just curious to see where it goes, and I'm glad I finally read it because a lot of people recommend this manga to me. And yeah, I'm glad they did because it's one that I will definitely plan to keep reading slowly but surely. That, my friends, wraps up all of the manga that I read this past month. I don't think I'll have quite as awesome of a reading manga month. I honestly don't know. I feel like with my kids going back to school in these next 2 weeks, that's probably gonna be cut in half quite a bit. But I know that Shay at Shay Geeks Out and Maeve at Maeve Ever Reading on Instagram are both doing a manga or a challenge, reading challenge this month of, I think it's called Tackle Your TBR Pile, or Tackle Your TBR Challenge, and reading manga that we want to catch up on. I was going to plan to read manga on my shelf because I still need to read Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts and just so much. My senpai's annoying down here, but I have a huge stack of manga still in my dresser from my library that I need to read, and I know I want to read Your Lie in April this month so that I can leave or share a video review at the end of this month. And there is a fantasy one that it's Dags recommended, and then Harbor Ride that I still want to read as well. So I think my plan for this upcoming month is going to try and be to read those. And if that's the case, that's about 25 plus manga. So we'll see if I can successfully read all of them for the Tackle Your TBR challenge. Even though I know it's library books, but I'm I really want to read all of those because I'm so guilty of checking out too many books from the library and then returning them and not reading them. Anyway, now I'll do the official wrap up. Thank you so much, friends, for watching. What are some manga or some novels you read last month? What were some of your favorites? I would love to hear from you, friends. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!